This podcast is for you. Your co-hosts, Ben Dodge and Eric Huso at Effect Epic Consulting, believe that your potential is limitless. Tapping into this potential is how you can affect epic results in your life, relationships, and business. Welcome to the Principles of Epic Growth.
How you doing, Eric?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm loving this, and I'm loving today. Today's going to be good.
It's going to be fantastic. Today we're going to talk about something that really can make a difference in any element of your life. It impacts everything that you do.
Yeah, and I would suggest a little housekeeping too right before we start, and that is make sure, because we reference quite a bit of other podcasts, so make sure you check out the podcast channel. It's also on iTunes, and when we reference things like integrity or commitment or authenticity, things like that, just go back and check those out. And particularly today, we're going to post a blog article in connection with today's podcast, and it's going to be called The Growth Mindset. And you'll see it on our website. The link will be in the comments to this podcast, so that way you can have all of these quotes, and it's even cited to the page numbers of the books and stuff, so it'll be good for you.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about, like Ben said, the growth mindset. A lot of the principles that we're going to be talking about come from author Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Mindset. Powerful book, a book that I recommend that everyone has, references, and reads on a regular basis. It really can have a deep impact on all the choices that you make.
So I'm going to ask a question here right off the bat. I know I'm going off script. We actually, for those of you that listen, we don't have any scripts, so we're always off script.
So this is really off script then.
Why, in your opinion, is having a growth mindset? And don't describe what it is yet, but why is having a growth mindset critical, or is it critical?
It is critical. It is critical because all action first starts in the mind, right? And so without that growth mindset, it's going to inhibit the actions that you take. It's going to inhibit the habits that you form. It's going to inhibit the character that you develop. It's going to inhibit the influence and the leadership that you end up having and being.
All right. So if I understand it correctly, then, and I know I do, but still I'm going to say it that way. If I understand it correctly.
That's good communication skills.
It is. You're talking about essentially a way of thinking that can either put limits or remove limits on what you accomplish.
Yeah.
To summarize it that way.
It's a way of thinking that opens up possibilities, because every single one of us has flaws and imperfections. We're all on a different path on the same road of being a human being with flaws and imperfections that are seeking to improve ourselves. And whether it's family relationships, business relationships, athleticism, health, intelligence,
sure.
Whatever it is, in each one of those, we're at a different spot on the road than every single other human being on the planet. But the mindset is what allows us to progress on that road or get stuck on that road. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do we get the proper mindset in every element of our life where we can be on that road and be progressing on that road.
I think a good question to ask listeners today is, before we jump into it, like either push pause and take a minute to write some things down. And that would be, where in your life do you think something is impossible or something that just really can't change? Is it your position at work? Is it a flaw that you see in your spouse? Is it a kid that you're struggling with raising because, he or she's just so adamantly doing what you don't want to do? Whatever it is there something in your life, something about yourself, like a habit that you have, that you feel you just can't change, or you don't have the power to change, or there's, you're stuck. I'm stuck at work. I'm stuck being fat. I'm stuck, whatever it is. What is it do you feel like is just really... And I'm saying authentically, be honest with you. Be real here, folks. Be raw. Like, you're going to know what to say.
It's going to be painful, and your first reaction might be, oh, no, I don't want to go there.
That's right. And you might know what you ought to say. Oh, yeah, everything can change. Everything's possible. Live life limitless. Well, that's bullcrap for most of you. Most of you actually don't feel that way, and there's something in your life where you feel like that thing, that person, that goal, that whatever isn't going to change, can't change, and you can't do anything about it. What is that? Write that down.
With that, you can get a ton out of today's podcast. Without that, you'll say, yeah, it was a great podcast. Love listening to Ben and Eric. But if you'll do what Ben just asked you to do, if you'll pause right now and actually write down a personal thing where you recognize that you've put limits on your possibilities, you've put limits on your growth, then you'll get tons more out of today.
Hey, look, and that's hard for me to say because I'm a person who believes I live completely without limits. But in preparation for this podcast, I found some limits and I was like horrified. But you got to be honest with yourself. You do. You owe it to yourself. I mean, come on, listen to these is great, but let's get something out of it together.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so first question. How do I know if I have a fixed mindset or if I have a growth mindset? And like I said earlier, in some element of your life, you're going to have a growth mindset. In some element of your life, you're going to have a fixed mindset. And so it's really important to look at all elements of your life where you have this growth mindset or fixed mindset. So a couple questions you can ask yourself. Do you get more satisfaction from not making any mistakes, from being perfect when something just comes easy to you? Or do you get more satisfaction out of doing hard things, on working something for an extended period of time, overcoming challenges associated with that, figuring things out? Okay? If you prefer things to just come naturally to you, then you are leaning more on the fixed mindset side. If you prefer the challenge, if you prefer the obstacle, if you prefer, having to figure it out, then you're leaning on the growth mindset side.
How about this too? Here's a real one for in your face. What if you think that you can't influence or change whatever that thing is? Fixed mindset.
Totally.
Yeah. That's out of my control. I mean, I can't do nothing with that. That's up to my boss or this person is just so deep in that, spouse or whatever it is, so deep in that train of thinking. I can't change that person. I can't this. I can't that. I can't. Fixed. You're fixed.
Yep. Okay. Another couple questions to ask yourself. How do you receive feedback? Are you afraid of feedback, or do you embrace feedback? Does feedback energize you?
Yeah. Does getting criticism from somebody like turn you on, or do you get defensive? Fixed.
Totally fixed.
Turn you on would be a little weird, but not that kind of turn on. I mean, like, do you see it as an opportunity to accept challenge and change?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So another thing to identify whether or not you have a fixed mindset or growth mindset in something is how you view failure. If you fail at something, do you beat yourself up and call yourself a failure? That's fixed mindset. If you fail at something and you're like, well, I just learned one way not to do it, let's figure out the next best way to try to do it.
Yeah. And let's be clear with that. We all fail at things. It doesn't mean you have to be happy that you failed.
Right.
Just what's your response going forward because of the failure?
Right.
That's fixed or growth.
So as I was thinking about this, I realized that, most of my life I've worked with kids in high school. And I realized that the fixed mindset really thrives in the high school setting, where, that's where you get the popular kids versus the not popular kids, the cool kids versus the not cool kids, the smart kids versus the not smart kids, the jocks versus the non-jocks. It's like where everybody labels you, this is what you are.
And there's only so much to go around.
Yeah. And anytime you try to break out of what you are, it's like,
how dare you?
We've
already labeled you as a drama kid. You can't be a jock.
Yeah.
Got it.
Cool. So this whole idea of this fixed mindset thrives in high school, and it manifests itself in 10-year reunions and in 20-year reunions. Okay.
No surprise there.
So, I have a body of a football player. If people look at me, there's not. I mean, at least once a month, strangers ask me where I played football.
Oh, dude, he looks like he's got these pecs that are huge, just so people can know.
But those he's not caressing them right now. But I was in the band in high school.
Yeah, you're probably the strongest kid in there.
Yeah, I was. But, I was in the band. Well, Matt. There's a kid named Matt Sure. That guy was strong. I was the second strongest.
Point is Eric looked like he played football, and the dude was a band geek.
Yeah. And so I remember when I went to my 10-year high school reunion, I got my man strength. I got my, later on, I was a late bloomer. and I show up to my 10-year high school reunion, and like the star of the football team, the stud, 7th grade, he was a man child. 8th grade, he was a man child, just dominated on the football field. Like, he looked at me, he's like, where were you in high school? And it was just that fixed mindset, right? I go to my wife's 10-year reunion a couple years later, and I didn't really know anyone there. I was just there to support my wife. And there's a group of her friends, and they're doing the same things that they did in high school. She's with this group of girls, and they're looking at this boy and that boy and talking about how nerdy he still is and how he's still a loser. And it just made her puke, right? Like, this is just like, we're not in high school anymore. But that was, evidence of these girls were still in the fixed mindset where that's who you are and that's who you'll always be.
And you can't become anything different. There's no room for you in our special club of cool kids, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. So, because the majority of us go through that high school experience, we are kind of trained to have this fixed mindset because that's what we experience in high school. So we have to break out of that. So what we're going to talk about today are different ways that we can recognize that the fixed mindset has kind of creeped into our lives, and what we can do to do that. So let's start off. Let's take business setting. So we're business leaders. We got people that work for us. How do we create a growth mindset in the people that we work with?
That's a fantastic question. I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't give them a participation medal. That's bullcrap.
That's what they got all through high school, man.
Yeah. This
your trophy.
Look, and I'm not trying to be offensive to people out there, but let's be honest. Like, we're not doing anyone any favors, our kids any favors, if we're praising them for not completing something, if we're praising them for doing an absolutely horrible job at something. Now, look, acknowledging effort and being authentic with the child or an employee about where they did good and where they didn't do good, and acknowledge, not necessarily praise, but acknowledge the fact that they tried, that's okay. But praise in an institutional, like, business corporate setting, and I'd say it applies everywhere, but praise them for finishing the job.
Yeah.
Praise them for being innovative, even though it didn't work, maybe.
Yeah.
Praise them, but don't praise them. Don't look at a horrible painting, for example, and say, oh, you did a great job. That painting is gorgeous. It's not. It sucks. But hey, look at you for trying. Good job. Maybe next time you'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, terrible. So praise them for seeing things through. Praise them for their innovation, their creativity. Praise them for accepting feedback and making a change in their life. But don't tell them they did a good job if they didn't do a good job. Period.
That will just continue ingraining the fixed mindset that they received growing up.
That's right.
Yeah. So companies are really big on looking for top talent, right? You got recruiters that will go all over the nation to the top colleges, getting the best kids from the best universities. And this focus on talent creates a culture that's fixated on talent, that worships talent. And it, unfortunately, forces employees into a fixed mindset where employees don't want to appear untalented, where they don't want to be authentic, where they don't want to ask questions, where they don't want to be accountable, where they don't want feedback. They'd rather be dishonest.
Yeah, so in a fixed mindset company where talent is the focus, and it always is in a fixed mindset company, you're not allowed to screw up per se.
Yep.
You're not allowed to be creative. You just have to be the best. It's all about the grades you got in school just to get the job or the connection that you have with whoever. But still, right? And at the end of the day, it's like, did you have the best idea and get it done on time or not, right? And if not, then you'll cheat to make it look like you did. You'll steal ideas from other employees. You won't collaborate. You won't cooperate with people. Your
scarcity mindset. You're hoarding all the good ideas. You'll take credit even for the things that other people do.
Because you can't grow, so you might as well just use whatever talent, God-given talent you have to try and keep your job, and that might mean making it look like you're more talented than you are. And so it creates a huge culture of a lack of integrity, lots of dishonesty, lots of lack of cooperation, lack of collaboration. I mean, all the things that would really make a company grow and flourish, you just cut off just because you feel that talent's the best. I think it's a good time to talk about the difference really between a fixed and a growth mindset when it comes to the term talent. Because I feel like I have some bold opinions there that some people probably just frankly be pissed off with.
Yeah. And this is where, as Ben and I were talking about this topic before we started, we see the world differently. We're two different human beings, and we're at different places on the path. And so if you get offended by what Ben's about to say, that's actually a good thing, because it's going to expose something in you where you have a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And so pay attention. If you do get offended, it's actually a gift that he's given you to expose, hey, wait, I didn't realize I had a fixed mindset there, and maybe I can peel back a couple layers and expose what's causing that fixed mindset, and then change that to the growth mindset.
Definitely not trying to be offensive, but let's be honest. And we'll take an athlete or a brainiac scientist or whoever you want. One of the most talented, and I use talent intentionally here, one of the most talented people you know at something, who you think's just gifted at something. And then ask yourself whether you think you could do what that guy does. And so, picture this person. Picture the Michael Jordans, the Albert Einsteins of the world. And tell yourself, or ask yourself, actually.
Could I do that?
Yeah. Can I be as good as him? Can I be as smart as him? And you'll go, most of you will say, no. Those guys were just born with a little bit of extra talent. Even though they worked hard, no doubt. They're just either genetically or, culturally, they were born in circumstances or whatever that allowed them to rise to the level that they're at. Bullcrap. Absolute BS. No way. Listen, there's success is not something that's naturally given to you because of some genetic something or some, family dynamic you were born into or some country that has all of the opportunities on the planet. That's all bullcrap. Look, none of that matters. It's a simple formula. Given enough time and a high degree of determination, anyone can become anything. Given enough time and a high degree of determination, anyone can become anything. Period. If you don't believe that, fixed mindset. I can never play basketball as good as Michael Jordan. Well, of course not if you believe that. So what that the guy plays really well. In fact, I happen to know that he didn't used to play really well. He's the hardest working guy on the court. That's why he's good. You can develop a skill set that people will think is talent, and they'll think that you were just born that way. It's because all of the rest of the world wants to justify how they suck and how they're fixed mindset, and so they'll say, "Oh, that guy's just talented. He's just born with that." That's bullcrap. The guy worked his butt off. Look at anybody in business, anybody in sports, anybody that's really got a high degree of success. It's because they're hardworking. They have enough determination, and they've spent enough time at it that they're that way. I'm not saying that we're not sometimes naturally good at things, because we naturally think a certain way maybe or whatever. But who cares? Talent sucks compared to grit, determination, and time. You match all of those together, I'll take that person any day over a talented person, because someone with a growth mindset can become whatever they want to, period. And they'll find success when others fail.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point that when I use the excuse, I can't do that, or that person is talented, that's just a justification.
It's excuses.
To justify my own lack of success or progress.
Or your own lack of desire or willingness to do what it takes. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Most people are lazy, right? Most of us are lazy, and we don't want to do what it takes to be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan rose to the top because he was willing to do whatever it takes. Commitment.
Go back and listen to the podcast on commitment.
Yeah, do whatever it takes. Be all in. And you do that, and you can be the most quote-unquote talented person out there, because talent's not something that you're born with. Talent's something that you create. Talent's something that you make. You want to be a talented baseball thrower? Go throw that baseball 1 billion times.
Till your arm falls off.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we normally see, though, in real human behavior is something that you'll see. Like if you ever go to a gym, you'll see the guy that has
Chicken legs.
chicken legs and huge upper body, right? Okay. And in his mind, he's working out. In his mind, he's doing good things. He's, doing curls for girls. But if he really wanted to become strong and powerful, he'd do some core exercises, and he'd really strengthen his core. He'd really strengthen his legs. You see that in business. When a person has a fixed mindset, they focus on themselves. They focus on their talents. They focus on themselves looking good instead of doing what's best for the company. They're not doing the squats, and they're not doing the deadlifts and the power cleans. They're doing the curls for girls. But in their mind, they're not doing anything malicious. Like, dude, I'm working out. I'm giving you everything I've got, They're just doing the things, though, that make themselves look good or feel good.
Yeah, they're thinking more in the moment. They're thinking more in the moment of what is, as if it's, look, another way of saying a fixed mindset is a scarcity mindset. And I feel like that's a label and a term in today's culture that more people will kind of resonate with. And it's the same thing. But they're in the moment in the gym, or in the moment in your relationship with your spouse, kids, coworkers, or boss at work, whatever. In that moment, you're thinking about what is, not what could be. You're thinking about what is happening right now as I'm being looked at, I'm being judged, right? I want people to feel a certain way about me. If in a growth mindset, you're thinking of what could be, what I could become, what the company could become. Like it's a selfless endeavor that allows for expansion, allows for potential, allows for growth. There's no limits, right? Like, again, almost everything we do with these podcasts is trying to help people live a liberated life without limits. That's in business and family, whatever. I mean, I think it's in our little jingle even, right? In the beginning and the end of this thing. So think in terms of what could be, not what is, as if that's all that there is. There's only so much pie to go around, whatever. I mean, money's a perfect example. There's only so much money out there. I can really never make enough money because all the rich people already have it all. But come on, every country prints money every day. Like, there's plenty of money being printed. Like, just go get it.
Yeah, it's there. And what will limit you is this idea or this feeling of being judged. So in the fixed mindset, you're always being judged. You feel like you're being judged, and you're judging other people. In the growth mindset, you're able to take those risks. You're able to be innovative. You're able to be courageous. You're able to do the selfless thing because you're not worried about being judged. You're not worried.
In fact, you want to be. In a growth mindset, judge me. What did you think I would suck at? Oh, perfect. I'm gonna fix that because you can.
Yep. So as a leader of a business, you have to demonstrate this. You have to have the growth mindset yourself. If you don't have this growth mindset yourself, that's why I love this idea that the growth of any business is dependent on the growth of its leader. If you're not growing as a leader of a business, then you are in the fixed mindset, and then that fixed mindset is contagious to your people, and you'll micromanage them, and they'll be looking over their shoulder, feeling judged, and they'll do things to be careful, and they'll do things to look good, and they're not going to do things that are going to help actually grow your company.
And you're going to blame the employees, and you're going to blame the lack of the business progress on some plan that some vice president or some employee never, failed to execute. You should blame yourself. You created an environment where they're not willing to grow. They're not willing to take risk and do what they need to do to become better.
Yep.
You're putting limits on your own company, and then you want to know why it doesn't grow. Now, look, here's another reference. Go check out the book Extreme Ownership. One of the best audiobooks, too, you can listen to, because the Navy SEALs that wrote it read it themselves, and they just sound tough.
They're
it's awesome.
They're a lot tougher than we sound.
Yeah, it's awesome. Anyways, Extreme Ownership, I love there's lots of principles in that book. In fact, I've listened to it probably 4 or 5 times. I'm listening to it again, even right now, just because it's just a fantastic book. Anyways, one of the principles that they talk about there is leading up the chain. So some of you might not be owning your own companies. Some of you might not. You might just be employees. And you might have a boss with a fixed mindset. Just know that you can go up the chain in your leadership and influence them to a growth mindset because you demonstrate it to such a degree and powerfully enough that they can't help but want a growth mindset as well.
Now, here's something. If you're in an organization and you feel like you have a leader who has a fixed mindset and you feel like that's inhibiting you, and you feel like, man, I can't do what I want to do in this organization, just know that that's actually a manifestation of you too having a fixed mindset. Because the growth mindset opens you up to the possibility that you can lead up, that you can grow, and that your growth will have an impact on the people around you. So if you're using that as an excuse of why you're not growing in the current situation that you're at because my boss has a fixed mindset, just know that you're in the same boat he is, that you have a fixed mindset around that thing, and that's holding you back from the possibility of doing what you could possibly do.
And here's another idea. Quit. I'm not a quitter, but a fixed mindset will say that you can't go find another job. You can't be happier somewhere else. You can't look for another opportunity.
The scarcity
You're stuck
mindset,
here.
yeah.
There's
This
only
is the
so
only-
many jobs.
Yeah.
Scarcity. I must stay here. My family's going to suffer if I don't. I don't believe that. Growth mindset. Either create the environment at that single-handedly, by the way, create the environment that you want through a growth mindset at where you're at, or go find the other one. Don't think that you can't.
Yeah. Beautiful. So, let's switch to some family relationships.
Ooh.
Okay. How do we help our children get a growth mindset? I mean, this is, for those of you who have children, like, this is like probably one of the most important things that you'll ever wrestle with, right?
Yeah. So I had a realization today, and it was a tough one. I was thinking about when I was a kid, and what contributed to me just thinking about, limitless living all the time. And I can't really put my finger on everything yet, but one of the things that contributed to me always wanting to do more and be more is, I had a father who was not the fathers of today who praise for participation, or the soccer coaches. You go and you lose every single game and you get a medal and a trophy. I mean, come on, what the heck is that? It's garbage. So what happens is my mom, I'd be on my way to school. My mom would say, "Remember who you are." My dad would yell out in the background, "And try to overcome it." I mean, he was kind of an ass, to be honest with you. We didn't always agree. Love the guy now. We get along well. But I was thinking about the fact that, like, I wasn't falsely praised at all by my dad. In fact, I was probably hardly ever praised. I don't know that I got any recognition. I'm not saying that's good. By no means am I saying that that's good. But what I notice myself in my parenting now today is if my son, and this is a delicate situation because he struggles with autism, and so you have to separate sometimes parenting an autistic kid versus can he understand me? Are we able to reason together? Versus, so anyways, even delicate as it is and complicated as it is, I don't praise him for doing a good job unless he did a good job. So if he builds a Lego something and it's supposed to look like a boat and it just looks like a pile of Lego bricks barely stuck together, I don't say, "That's a good boat, dude. You killed it." No way. I'm not doing him any favors. I'd be like, "That's amazing effort at trying to build a boat. Like, you took effort. I know you took effort there. I can't wait to see what happens when you practice and see how well of a boat you can build."
The next boat.
Huge difference, right? I'm not praising him for building a good boat because he built a sucky one. I'm praising him for struggling through the process and making an effort. And that's almost all I can praise him for in that moment. And that's okay. Don't give participation medals out. Don't give trophies out unless they're earned.
Now, parents love their children.
They're protective.
Most parents are well-meaning. But a common mistake that they make is they praise their kids for the special gifts and the talents they have. They praise their kids for just being perfect because they want to see their children as a reflection of themselves inherently and see their children that they overcame the imperfections they have, when the reality is that there's no such thing as a perfect person, right? So what Ben said is so true. As parents, we've got to praise our kids for doing whatever it takes to accomplish something. We've got to praise them for their valiant effort, for their grit, for their commitment, and not praise them for their talent, and not give false acknowledgments and tell them that something is great when it really doesn't. It doesn't meet the mark, right?
Yeah, and don't praise talent. Remember, talent's bullcrap. It doesn't necessarily exist. Talent just means somebody worked hard to create what looks like talent. They created success, and it looks like talent. You know, so don't praise talent. Praise them on what they did to be that way,
Yep.
as opposed to, oh, you're just so good at playing the piano, little Johnny. No, little
You're
Johnny,
a natural, Johnny.
bullcrap. Johnny practices a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
So comments like "You're so smart," "You're so brilliant," "You're the best," "You're the fastest one done." All those things actually inhibit a child.
Yes,
Ironically, it has the opposite effect that we want it to have.
that's right.
It prevents a kid from trying, from putting themselves out there, for being vulnerable. It prevents them from seeking challenge and adversity, and it puts doubt in their mind. Oh, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe my mom, maybe she's full of it because she says I'm this and I'm not that. I know I'm not that, and so then it actually can put a wedge in a relationship between a kid and a parent.
How'd you experience that? Can I ask that question?
Well, Mom, I know you're probably listening.
So just so everyone's clear, my mother-in-law, Eric's mom, is probably one of our most loyal listeners.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm carefully asking, how did you experience this?
Every
Eric?
night I get a text. Love the podcast.
Yeah.
Love this, love that.
And I don't think my parents have listened to a single one. So I could throw them under the bus right now.
So, one thing, and like I said earlier, no parent has any malintent.
That's right.
Right?
Best intentioned person I know is your mom.
And I got lots of praise and lots of compliments from my mom. Lots of them growing up. I thought that I was the perfect child. And from the praises, but then when reality struck, when I actually wasn't the perfect child, I knew I was far from the perfect kid. It made it hard to do hard things. Like I shied away from pushing myself. I shied away from playing football. I shied away from, pushing myself in certain areas because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to look like a failure. I didn't want to look like I wasn't the perfect kid. Right? Now, I've been able to break through tons of that stuff, especially in the last 10 years. And that's the great thing about being a human being is, your adolescence doesn't define you. Unless you're in a fixed mindset, then it does.
Yeah, and then until you go to your 10 or 20-year high school reunion, you see everyone still thinking that way, right?
Yeah.
Wow, what a bad way to live, too. If you think about that for a minute. I'm going to go to my high school. By the way, I've never stepped foot on a high school reunion. I think it's a complete waste of time. But let's say you go to one, and everyone's still there. They're still the same people. What a waste.
So sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good for you, dude.
Okay. So you want to get your kids to love challenge. You want to get your kids to love grit, to develop commitment, to embrace failure, embrace adversity as a teaching tool, embrace it as a learning opportunity.
How do you get them to love that? How do you get a kid to love embracing a challenge?
Well, every kid wants a compliment.
Exactly. You
So
praise them
you
when they do it.
acknowledge
Yeah.
when they do it.
Boom.
Yep.
Boom. Right
There you
there,
go.
guys. Best advice ever today. Praise your kid when they embrace the challenge. Not if they succeed. Who cares?
Yep.
You're praising them for taking it on. Be like, dude, I'm so proud of you for trying to do this. This is tough.
But you're going to have to overcome something inherent in every parent, and that is you don't want to see your kid fail, because if your kid fails, then you're a failure as a parent. That's the fixed mindset, right? My kid fails, I fail. And so I got to shield my kid from failure so that I'm not a failure as a parent. So we're not raising teenagers. We're raising leaders. We're raising people that can make a difference, okay? And the fixed mindset forces you into, I've got to raise the perfect teenager. The growth mindset says, you know what? My teenager is going to make mistakes, and they're going to be an incredible human being because of it.
So sometimes I think as parents, we see our kids' failures as our own failures. So we want them to succeed so badly because we don't want it to reflect on us badly as a parent. And boom, we're instantly in the scarcity/fixed mindset, and we're thinking selfishly. We're not thinking in what's best for the growth of my kid.
And that doesn't mean that you neglect your kid, obviously. Great example of this. So I came home a week and a half ago. There was a hawk in my swimming pool. I was able to rescue it, called wildlife rescue.
Baby hawk.
Baby hawk, yeah, little baby hawk. Fell out of the nest into the pool. Ended up in the skimmer. Its little head was the only thing out of water. It'd
Wow.
been in there all day. I was shivering when I got it out. Called animal rescue. They came and they got it. And then a week later, I go outside and there's two more baby hawks in my swimming pool.
Maybe they just like to swim. No, they don't like
so
to swim.
These were actually on the deck, not in the pool.
Yeah.
And so I go out there, and I have an affinity for hawks. I love hawks. And I'm just sitting there about 5 feet away from these baby hawks, just being with them, right? And I've got 2 dogs, and my dogs are there, and they're barking at them, going crazy at the hawks. I'm like, nope, just trying to quiet them down. And I'm with these hawks, and I get really close to the hawks, and I know the mother is somewhere close, right? And she's letting me be with these hawks. My cat, my 2 dogs, they're like barking at the hawks, being aggressive with the hawks. The hawks are putting out their wings, making themselves like they're all tough, even though they're these little babies. And mom's letting it happen. Mom's
letting the dogs essentially threaten the hawks.
Exactly.
To a certain degree. So the hawks feel threatened. I think that's one of the important parts, right? The baby hawks in this moment of the story feel threatened. They're starting to puff themselves up, put their wings out, that kind of thing. And there's a cool little video that he's got on his phone. And the dogs aren't trying to eat the hawks by any means. But they are barking at them.
Very interested.
The hawks are scared. Mama hawk, meanwile, sitting up in a tree watching the whole thing.
Watching it. Hawk.
Letting it happen.
Hawk flies up onto my pool fence. Like, this is cool. So I get up and I walk around, and I'm 3 feet away from this hawk. I'm looking eye to eye at this little baby hawk, 3 feet away. And then I pull out my video camera, and then I get closer, and I'm about 8 to 10 inches away from this hawk. And I'm just seeing how close I can get, how much this hawk is going to allow me to get close to it. And then as soon as I get within a foot, it flies from my pool fence to another little fence. And as it's flying, my Great Dane dog goes chasing after it. She's half lab, half Great Dane, so she's a bird dog. And she's going to jump after and grab this baby hawk out of the air. And at that moment, the mother hawk flies out of the tree, swooms down, freaks my dog out, scares my dog away, and the baby hawk lands safely on the fence. Taught me a powerful lesson about allowing our children to face adversity. And, there's a point where you protect them from death, right? So we're not saying neglect your children, but allow your children to face adversity. Allow them to deal with it.
Yeah, so a critical point in that story is don't mama hawk your kids before death. Think about that. It took death before mama stepped in.
Yep.
Not some angry teacher or coach who's not being nice.
Mean. Somebody's barking at my kid.
They're being mean to my kids. Listen, guys, don't mama hawk too early.
Yep. It's a powerful lesson on parenting from Hawk. Okay. What if you're married?
I am married to your sister.
I love my wife. And I've been given a gift. I've been given the gift of a wife who is not satisfied with me being who I was, and is always encouraging me to become more than I am, encouraging me to grow, encouraging me to develop, encouraging me to have courage.
It's true.
And that has been such a huge gift to me.
I think that's one of her greatest contributions to your marriage. But I just want to be clear. Did you say she's not satisfied with you?
Satisfied with who I was.
Oh, sorry. Just kidding.
She's very satisfied with me, right?
Yeah, no, I love that, though, that she is, when it comes to your relationship, a total growth mindset. She knows you can be more, and she helps you be more, and she encourages you to be more. She doesn't just stay in this level of contentment with it is what it is. My spouse can't change.
Yep.
She knows that you can change, and she knows that you can be better, and she encourages and helps you to do that. Not necessarily nagging, by the way. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about that growth mindset of through
having
love
a growth mindset herself and inspiring me to have that as well.
Awesome.
So if you have a fixed mindset, then you're going to want a spouse that makes you feel perfect. You're going to want a spouse that worships you. You're going to want a spouse that puts you on a pedestal. Versus a growth mindset, you're going to want a spouse that will encourage you to become better, overcome your faults and weaknesses, give you feedback, and you accept that feedback. So, most people that have struggles in their marriage, it stems from having a fixed mindset.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. On a real level, you have a desire for your spouse to think that you're great, to, on some level, just worship you as just an awesome human being. You know, you want them to look up to you and to just love you for who you are. Love me for who I am. Fixed mindset.
Yeah.
Flawed. You should want that spouse to help encourage you to be better, to overcome your faults and weaknesses, and to want them to point them out to you. Ooh, no defensiveness here now. That's fixed mindset. Growth mindset is, yeah, show me where I can be better, sweetie. If anyone can, you can.
Yeah, you know me better than anybody else.
Fail on my part. This was another realization. I'm a growth mindset person, and I would have said before this 100% of the time. Wrong. You know, I struggle with this. I'm gonna go home today, and I'm gonna give your sister, the one that I'm married to, I know you have two sisters, you know, the hugest hug and be like, sweetie, I just learned something huge. You know, like, I want you to help me become better, and I'm not going to be as defensive now when you point stuff out. I'm going to look at that as an opportunity to be better, because I look at other things in my life that way, but I don't necessarily take criticism well in my marriage. And what a huge life-changing thing just to be able to host this podcast with you, dude, and to talk about this has been amazing just for me.
So this is an important thing that Ben just pointed out. You know, if you know Ben personally, you know that he has a growth mindset on steroids. Like, I don't know another human being who has a more aggressive growth mindset than Ben Dodge. Like,
just to be clear, I don't take any steroids.
Just beet juice.
That's right. I love beets.
Natural erythropoiesis he's got going there. But, you know, like I said earlier, there's no such thing as a perfect human being. We all have flaws. We all have weaknesses. And there's some element of our life where we have a fixed mindset that's holding us back. Whether that's in your marriage, whether it's in your business relationships, whether it's you with athletics, whether it's you with intellect, whether it's you in your spirituality, whatever it is, we all have something where we have a fixed mindset that's limited our possibilities, that's limited our ability to see what we could do and what we could be. And Ben just, you know, he was just really authentic when he shared with us, you know, I realized today that I have a fixed mindset in my marriage. I mean, that's really powerful for you to share that with us.
Yeah, how about this? Let's stay on marriage. So that's how you see your spouse seeing you. How do you see your spouse? Fixed mindset. You don't believe your spouse can change. So there's that one thing that they just suck at, and you just have experienced them for years, decades, whatever, and you just internally feel like, no, they're not going to be able to change that. They're just stuck at that, you know. You also believe that just everything should be bliss, but it's not. But you believe it should be, and that you're just not compatible. Yep. Naturally, you're not compatible. Yep. You know, that's terrible.
I love what Carol Dweck says in her book Mindset. You know, there's no such thing as they lived happily ever after. The greatest marriages they worked happily ever after. So there's no such thing as a no-effort relationship. The fixed mindset wants it to be a no-effort relationship. We're so compatible with each other. We're soulmates. The reality is for a relationship to work, it takes work. It's got to be growing. And if it's not growing, if it's in that fixed state, it will become irrelevant. It will deteriorate. It will rot. It will go away.
I love it.
Okay. So to have that growth mindset, you've got to change the way you think about your spouse. You have to believe that they can change. And then you have to be the change. Like, be the change in the relationship that will inspire your spouse to want to change. That's kind of what happens in my relationship. My wife, she has a growth mindset, and that inspires me to want to have a growth mindset. And if you have a fixed mindset, then either you're a bad person or they're a bad person, or the relationship is just bad and beyond repair. And you don't want to be the bad person. So the natural way is for you to then blame your spouse for being the bad person. And if you've ever read the book Leadership and Self-Deception, they do a great job of describing this, where the moment that you feel like you should do something and you don't, then you blame your spouse, and then they become a bad person. They have these inherent character flaws.
Right.
That now they have these character flaws, and then the fixed mindset, they can't change that. So now all of a sudden
The
you've got
relationship's beyond repair.
failed relationship, and all right, I'm out.
The more you blame, the more superior you feel. That's from that great Deception book. And that's the problem with marriages, right? If you feel like, and if you can be honest with yourself and you can remember a time where you're just blaming your spouse or something over and over again, why not accept that, blame yourself? Why not adopt a growth mindset and figure out how the two of you can grow together and work things out together and become better together, instead of the scarcity mindset? There's only so many good relationships. Mine's not one of them. There's only so many good characteristics in the world, and my wife doesn't have them, or my husband, whatever. That kind of thing is bad. That's self-destructive. I feel like we got to wrap this up.
Yep.
I think there's a couple of questions we should ask, and these are powerful, and it's worth asking for you to take some time. Look, I know you're probably driving, jogging, whatever it is that you're doing, but listen, stop and take some time to think about this. This will help you adopt and figure out some of this growth mindset in your own life. So let's start with a couple of these first ones. Who is your hero? Who's somebody that you look up to that you want to be like? Assignment, go talk to them. Find out what they did, the challenges they overcome, the goals that they've set, the failures they've endured, and then look for the grit that they demonstrated through that process. Who is your hero? Who do you want to be like, right? And then go find them, ask them to lunch, give them a call, take them out, talk to them for a little bit. I bet you their story is amazing, and I bet you it's something that you didn't even think about, some of the things that they've overcome, and you would have been like, whoa, I didn't know that was possible. But it's inspiring, and it'll help you figure out how to adapt it to your own life. Other one, the next one. Think of someone that you think is smarter than you, more talented than you. And I know you guys know I hate that word, but just think about it that way. Or how about this? Think of someone who's luckier than you. And then the hard question, what do you think, Eric?
Be open to the possibility that they might just have a growth mindset. Did they just work harder?
Yeah.
Did they demonstrate more commitment? Have they practiced more? Have they self-taught themselves some things? Are they a voracious learner where they're always learning? They're always, trying to improve their skill set? Have they taken more risks than you? Okay. Get to know this person that you think is luckier than you or who's more talented than you. Like, really get to know them. Ask them questions. Everybody has to eat. Take this person out to lunch.
Yeah.
And really focus on those questions of their commitment, their grit, their action, their mindset that enabled them to create what they created.
Here's a growth mindset application for you. If that person that you're thinking of is a runner, go buy yourself some running shoes, lace up, and join them on their run. Give it all you got, and maybe write down the questions, because you'll probably be breathing hard just to catch up. But no, serious about that. Think of that person that you consider smarter, more talented, luckier, and then ask yourselves, really, ask yourself if you're open to the possibility that they might have worked harder than you, that they might have practiced more than you.
Yeah.
Right? That they've taken more risks than you, and then just figure it out. It's awesome. It'll be such a life-changing experience, I promise.
If you want to have that conversation with Ben Dodge, buy yourself a bike. Set your alarm for 4 a.m. and he'll share with you. He'll talk your ear off.
I'll ride with
Park
you in the morning.
Higley, 4 a.m., brother.
That's right. Every day.
All right, guys. Great to be with you. Love this topic. Don't forget to make the applications to make it actually useful.
Yeah, take some time, write it down, journal your thoughts on it. Also, keep the emails coming. We love it. Message us. We don't mind answering some questions and talking to you. We're here for you. We love to see people succeed, and we're all about being in your ring with you.
Be powerful.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to the Principles of Epic Growth podcast, your path to epic performance and life with incredible growth.